What's up, everybody? Welcome to Blue Nile Power. This is Gabby.
And KT.
And we're back with another episode. Thank you, guys. Yeah, you can hit us up at all social medias at Building Our PWR. Not even gonna say we gonna be here every week, every other week. We just, you know how it is, guys, with life. But we're glad we could do another episode, and we thank you all for joining us today. We still ain't got no structured ass episode yet. It's coming soon once we ourselves are structured. Right now, though, we did want to talk about a couple things. One of the things is what's got everybody in an uproar. The Jason Aldean Try That in the Small Town video. And KT's going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that they're indoctrinating her with in college. It's a lot of a cookery, as we like to say. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to talk about that and whatever else comes up. So, in May, I think, the dude came out with the Small Town song. And pretty much what it is a synopsis of he's talking to these people. They don't say who it is. But they don't love, they cussing, they don't like the police. They're pretty much degenerates and they're doing this and doing that in the city.
Catching flags on fire and in the city. He makes sure he mentions in the city.
Mm-hmm. And then he said, you try that shit in a small town, watch what happens. And he's pretty much saying you're going to get your ass whooped. The visuals. Visuals. Some girl on TikTok was pointing out that one place with the American flag where the dude is singing was literally the site of a lynching at a race riot. It was actually a site of several lynchings. The imagery, literally at the end, it has the sun going down, signifying a sundown town. Right. And some of the one of the newspaper clippings they had, it was of a white man threatening another white man for pretty much siding with black people. And it's just, it's back to that good old overt shit. And apparently that song about to be number 1 since the backlash. And people are, rightfully upset, and some people are capitalizing off of it and saying it ain't no big deal. Now, to me, normally I'm like, stuff is the same, shit ain't changed, yada yada yada, which is true. This is nothing new. This is pretty much everything that them people be saying on Facebook anyway. But a corporation okayed this to be released. But I do think dude needs to be some type of consequences because this just, I don't know. Like I said, he taking it back to the old school stuff where it ain't even no nuance to it no more. And that's what the people want. That's what the people need, apparently. The people in these small towns. And we know what small town signifies. It's not a physical place. It has always been the backdrop for good old traditional white America, and everything that stands for evangelicalism and hard working and Bible thumping and patriotic and this, that, and the third. And that's pretty much what dude's saying. We know that this is really just a song telling black people to not step out of line or there's going to be some consequences. Yeah. Okay, KT, as somebody who is a former small town resident, born and raised, I would like to know your thoughts about the small town, because apparently what I'm getting from this song is the small towns are just tight-knit communities that care about each other and are all about protecting each other, keeping everybody safe. There's a lot of I don't know. It just seems like a very strong, firm, supportive place to live if you are a white person.
All right. So, majority of my life was spent in a very small town in Missouri. If you know anything about Missouri, you know they are extremely, extremely conservative. Even down to the point where, as I was growing up, if you went down the highway, you would see anti-abortion billboards. So, with that being said, I'm trying to think. No, that's bullshit. What you said and what Jason Aldean is talking about, it's bullshit. The same exact politics are repeated in a small town as they are in a major city. There is absolutely zero difference. There are poor, extremely poor black people that live there. You think they're poor in the city. Wait till you go to a small town. They're extremely dirt poor. And then there are the upper class or middle class white people that have money. That's it. It's the same exact. It's the same thing. There is no sense of community. That's not a real thing. That's not what happens.
So there's only poor black people in the small towns?
Majority of the time, yeah. If there is a single, I promise you, like the city that I grew up in, there was only probably about like maybe two black families that had any kind of money, and one of them was the police chief.
But I'm saying, as far as not even just black people in their economic status, like, was there any white poor people in the small town? Or just black poor people in the small town?
No, it was small poor people too. Small town had poor white people as well. But again, none of that had to do with community. Like the classism is still happening, the racism is still happening. There's no community togetherness, like he's trying to say.
So there was no white community there?
No.
So if something happened in a small town, y'all wouldn't all come together with y'all little muskets and shotguns and defend the city?
No.
Try that in a small town. Try that in a small town.
I'm trying to think of like I lived there for like 18 years, right? And before that, I lived in an even smaller town with even less population, and majority of poor white people are on drugs, to be honest. Like, it is, even if we look at not just from Missouri, but everyone always points out what Virginia and the poor white people in the mountains and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I'm trying to think. My grandma's town that she lives in now, majority of the white people there who are poor are on drugs. Yeah, they're not over here fighting other people. They're probably like falling into propaganda pipelines with Fox News or other news stations and stuff like that. But they're not like, if something happens, they really don't give a shit.
There's not a trained militia ready to fight at all times?
No.
Interesting.
No.
So that's why I would say, I think small town is really a euphemism for,
of course,
the white people, because as we've seen, like, and I'm thinking this is like post-slavery, obviously, and the Industrial Revolution and post-Great Migration of a lot of black people to the city became racialized, and the city became otherized, because it was a place where all the immigrants were, and that's a place where a lot of the black people were, and they were starting to get uppity, and they were starting to make money. So the city began to be seen as, that's where the black city is. In the rural place, that's where the good old white people are, the ones that's for the family values and shit like that. And it's kind of still how it is now. And yeah, so what the Jason Aldean cat was trying to do is what a lot of artists of all races do all the freaking time. They try to relate to a demographic of people that are super duper down on their luck, super duper oppressed, super duper economically disadvantaged, if we like to say. LARP their identities and then position themselves as a spokesperson for those people in order to get money and revenue. And that's all this guy was doing. You think that man can relate to anything that's going on in bumfuck Egypt, in Missouri somewhere, over there in a company town? You think that man knows anything? If we look up this man thing, he probably lived in a rich ass family like all these musicians do. And like Kid Rock and everybody. And just use this stuff as a stepping stone. And he knows that a lot of times the people that's even going to the shows, the people that's giving him all that money, it ain't no small town people. These is people that is just random racist people, white America, all over America, and this gives them a chance to LARP as well, because they know they ain't got no power. They know that they are still economically disadvantaged, and this gives them their race war fantasy that allows them to continue to align with the state,
Mm-hmm.
suck the police's dick, and go with all status quo things and never question anything ever. And so that's what this guy is doing. And it's similar to what these other people do in other genres. People talk about country music. At one point it was for the working class, and it was for this, and it was for that, and then it turned into
Mm-mm.
something else. Okay, I'm not going to debate whether it was or whether it wasn't. It was still a white ass genre. It was still built on racism, but we can give y'all that. We can give you that it may have been the voice for the working class and it had good intentions at heart, but something down the line happened and it became this dick sucking ass genre, similar to hip hop, which also was the voice of working class people from America who were able to express themselves and talk about whatever it was. It wasn't perfect, but now it's become a dick sucking genre for capitalism and just falling in line in the status quo again. But and it's the same types of things. So with this, the dude saw an avenue. KT was trying to see if the country genre is losing money. Maybe it is, maybe it ain't. I don't know. But we know that overall, this is just one more little drop in the bucket of keeping everybody riled up. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have time to sit down and actually think about some of the issues that we have going on. Let's just fight and let's just think about how we're better than the black people and how they better not try nothing with me. And let's think about how we're better than the trans people and how they better not try to be in my face and try to take over and try to do this and do that. Let's say that we're better than the women and they better not try to get out of their place and stuff like that. Because all this stuff obviously is more important than the material things at hand. AKA, you do not have food, you don't have a grocery store in your neighborhood, you do not have access to adequate health care. Y'all
You just
drinking
mentioned something really crazy,
what?
and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you do not have a grocery store in your area. Where I lived, there was one grocery store, and it was probably the size of like a Claire's
Mm-hmm.
for majority of my life. We had to drive a good hour and a half in order to get somewhere that was a real grocery store. You're absolutely correct when you say that. You're so right in all of this. Is that it's not about it's about how can I look better? How can I make myself feel better? Because that's how individualism and capitalism even works. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Because without that, who are you? If you can't say you're better than somebody else in capitalism, then who are you?
You're nothing.
You're nothing.
You're nothing. That's why everybody hates. Even when we're young, we going on tangents like we always do. Participation awards. You might as well just call me a damn son of a bitch. You better call my child a bastard than give them a participation award. How dare you reward them for participating in fun? They're either going to be the best or I don't care nothing about them. Everything starts there. Everything starts me, me, me. I have to be
Individualism.
better. I have to have the best grades. I have to have the principal's list. I have to have graduate with honors because it shows that I'm better than everybody else. But it's interesting if we go back to this video, the individualism stuff that goes away when we're talking about let's gang up on the blacks. All of a sudden,
Ain't
it's
that
a small
crazy?
town and we have a community of people who are willing to fight and stand for. Interesting when it's something that the state wants you to do. We will invoke community. When it's patriotism, when
Yeah.
it's consumerism, when it's going to your job,
The
everything, the
military.
military, everything's always your coworkers, we're family, we're this, we're that. All that's community. But when it comes to doing things you want to do by yourself, or just you want to do outside of capitalism, that must be some type of competition.
Mm.
That must be something that you're doing against other people. It's very interesting when you think about it, because you think about even like sexuality and stuff like that. People want that to be like that's your individual choice. That's your individual thing. Don't make that a big thing. Don't make that, don't force this on us. Don't force that on us. But Christianity,
That's okay.
that's okay.
It's okay to force that on other people
So
or to preach the good word to other people because you're converting others. They don't say that like specifically, but that's what they're doing.
it's just interesting. I don't know. Even if I was thinking about that, what's that one documentary? Them people in West Virginia. Remember that white family?
Yeah,
out
like
of
that's what I'm talking about. The mountain people.
the mount whatever
Yeah,
mountain people.
the Virginia mountain people.
Girl, them folks. Nothing but alcoholics and drug addicts
And
they
Mountain
losing their
Dewish.
kids and what's where one documentary we saw them kids all they drunk was Mountain Dew. Nobody had teeth in their mouth.
Yeah.
Like obviously this is the ideal for America. Obviously, these are the people who have no other issues in the world, and the only thing they have to worry about is a black person coming into that city and tearing up a building. That's it.
Didn't they say? Didn't they like go back and talk to them people and stuff, and they were like Trump supporters?
Of course.
I mean, my thing is, it's the same thing in like my grandma's town, like the one where I grew up. If you go down the road, it's crazy to me. But if you go down the road, you're still seeing like Trump signs. You'll see American signs. You'll see the American flag in front of the most dilapidated house you have ever seen in your entire fucking life. And you're like, don't you have, is there not something else here that you can think about other than like maybe not American patriotism is the way to go? Maybe?
But I think that's just all they know. They wouldn't even know they wouldn't even know about alternatives. I don't think they
And
know
here's
about
another thing too. If we look at like how education is set up, even in those small towns, like education is not set up in order for you to have the greatest mind in the entire world. It's not set up for you to have intellectualism. It's not set up for you to think about theory. It's set up to get you into the closest factory. It's set up to get you to the closest farm. It's set up to get you closest like those type of things. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to make minions out of you. It just give you just enough so that you are just a loyal American citizen and you'll go to work and you'll feel like it's your personal responsibility and you place all your worth as a person with America, Jesus, and your job.
Yep.
But try that in a small town. Try that in a small town. It really is hilarious when you think about it. But it's I don't know. Anyways, like we've already been talking about, KT is back in school, and some of this stuff she's been telling me about that they're making her read and write about. It is hilarious. KT, what's that last thing you had to write about with the HR department? What was that? What was that project about?
Okay, so the project is that I have to. There's this lady who is talking bad about a manager in a corporation that I work for, and I'm supposed to be HR, okay? So the lady posts on social media and she says, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy, blah blah blah. Like she's airing her grievances on social media. The lady is. So I have to, as an HR person, have to come up with a way to fire this lady in 7 pages. I have to outline what the social media policy is, what the disciplinary action is, and how I can go about firing this lady in the most effective, cuckish way possible. That's the best word I can think of, because they tell you that you've got to be positive. You got to make sure that this is a positive paper, not one where you're like, okay, this lady is a terrible person, but one where you're just like, barely holding it there. But something that was more interesting to me than that one was previously I have to read this book by, I don't remember his first name, but it's Carnegie, and it's something like How to Win Friends and things like that. Okay, so I had to read that, and they said that one of the best leaders in the entire American system was Abraham Lincoln. because he never complained. He never bitched. He never was upset about things. And if he was positive while he did it. But then they don't mention, like, the context of Abraham Lincoln, who he was, and what he did. I don't know. It's just weird. It's
What
just
was the point of it? What was the point? What was the point of the Abraham Lincoln thing?
the point of the Abraham Lincoln thing was to show that you could be a good leader without putting other people down. And so they basically said he was a great leader because he was able to get the Emancipation Proclamation completed. But they were trying to say, like, hey, you shouldn't complain. And I had to write a discussion post on it. And I had to be like, he didn't just randomly do the Emancipation Proclamation. People had to complain in order to get the Emancipation Proclamation passed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just like, anyway, all of it builds up. I'm rambling, but all of this builds up to say that capitalism wants you to put on a facade. And they want you to put on this fake face that you're a positive, wonderful human being while you're shitting and spitting in their face.
Yep.
Yep, that's it. And that's not, like, that's the corporate world, period.
I feel like it's very 21st century. It's very 20 late to aughts, early 2010s. This whole this is a community, and this is about love, and this is about mental health, and this is about using the perfect flowery corporate language, and making everything just really passive aggressive, so that it doesn't seem like I'm doing what I'm doing, so that you can be gaslit by your own self.
I mean, that's really what it is.
As bad as how they are.
Yeah, and so not only that, but the second book that I'm reading along with that is a business essentials book. And you would think that if it's business essentials, that they would break down different types of economies, right? They would break down capitalism, communism, socialism, blah, blah, blah. No. They literally spent a paragraph on communism and on socialism. The rest of the book is how capitalism works. Mm-hmm. And they say the quiet part out loud. All these arguments that you guys are having with each other on Twitter, they literally say it in the book. Verbatim.
Like what?
For instance, what was the supply demand thing that I read off to you?
Oh yeah, we talked about that, about unemployment and
Oh yeah, how unemployment is connected to supply and demand, and how unemployment, like, obviously we know it's connected to the economy, and there has to be a group of people who are unemployed in order for the economy to continue. The book literally says that.
And I just saw something on Twitter that was saying that the black unemployment rate was rising. So that means that the economy is about to get, quote unquote, better.
Yeah, it's about to get better.
So just something to look out for. Now, KT is not going to school to be no damn manager. She's not going to school for business. She's going to school for cybersecurity. But for some reason, she has to take all these little random cookie classes.
Yeah.
I don't understand what that's about.
It's cybersecurity. The way they do it is they put cybersecurity with business, because as somebody who is a cybersecurity person, I guess, like, you would need to maybe sometimes create your own business to push forward in the cybersecurity industry. But I'm not trying to do all that. I'm just trying to get a job.
Literally.
I'm just trying to get a regular job and finish college. Anyway, it's a mess. Anybody who goes to school and does anything in regards to business, like, if you are anti-capitalist, if you're an anarchist, and you're going to school in regards to business, you're a cuck. Like, period. Like, there's no way that you can actually be someone who actively fights against that while also, like, wanting to be a financial manager or an HR manager.
I know some people like that. But yes, guys. Things are just really, really just shaking my head. I don't even know at this point. Like, I'm just tired of the same old discourse, the same old this, the same old that. I just saw something yesterday that reminded me of something else that irked me. This is just gonna be an irking episode. What irks us? somebody was talking about why whenever we got to talk about feminism, it always has to go into why it's beneficial to cis men. That always has to be the end all be all for the conversation on why it's important, because patriarchy hurts cis men too. Why whenever we're trying to talk about a type of oppression, we always have to bring in another group and say how they're also affected for it to be legitimate. Like with transphobia, why now are we having to put black cis women in this conversation every time we're trying to talk about why transphobia is bad? It should be enough that black trans women are getting murdered left and right, that it should be that alone should be an issue. I don't have to come and make this relevant to you. I think that's something that we need to, I don't know, I guess like people think that they're doing a good, or they're trying to meet people where they are. But if you continue to coddle people in that type of thinking, they'll never be able to think about other people without relating it to themselves. You should be able to empathize, or not empathize, no. You should be able to sympathize with somebody without going what they're going through, without having any connection to what they're going through, just because they are a human being. So that takes deprogramming in itself. But if we keep coddling that behavior, always trying to find a connection on how we can make somebody care about something, they'll continue to think that way. They're not being challenged. Um, but yeah, I just thought about that because that is true. Like that's become the new thing about, you have to make men see how feminism is good. You have to make men see how
I
patriarchy is
think
bad and hurts them. But we're not challenging their thinking. They're already thinking male centered. Why are we still trying to go in that frame of thinking? Why are we still going in? You know what I'm saying?
I think some of that push is in connection with how uh, I feel like some of that push is in connection with people who are still trying to play into um, the world, capitalism, period, and individualism. I mean, you can only expect individualism from an individualistic society. If anything that happens, it's always about empathy and not sympathy. That only makes sense for individualism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Capitalism is based on individualism, and our current society is set up based on individualism. So the only way other people feel like they're going to be able to get someone else to understand their problems is if they tell them to put themselves in their shoes. I feel like that's a product of capitalism. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but
I mean,
what
but
do you?
I'm saying, as far as if you're calling yourself a progressive or a
Oh
leftist
yeah,
or
yeah.
anarchist or stuff like that,
You shouldn't have to do all that.
why are you still relating shit? Why are you still relating shit to white people about you're
Yeah.
poor too, we're poor too, small town? Why are you still relating stuff like that? Just relate it to black people are human beings. Period. Okay, I guess that can be the relation. They're human beings too, I guess.
But then
But then, but it should just be, this is bad. This should not happen, and we leave it at that. I don't know. Like I feel like I do know that a lot of the indoctrination and stuff happens young in schools, like we talked
yeah.
about. The only time I'm trying to think about the times that community is emphasized at a school, because majority of the time it's about getting good grades for yourself. It's about achieving this, achieving that for yourself. You getting the award, you getting the attendance award. I think about community maybe with sports. I think about community maybe when we're doing fundraisers at school.
Going to lunch, maybe getting in line.
But yeah, well, sometimes you can't talk at lunch. Sometimes you can't do any, like you gotta walk in a single file line. You gotta. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. Like, just everything. I don't understand. I mean, like, I understand that perspective, and I definitely agree with it. But my thought process is that I I don't think that people are capable of not using empathy. You know what I'm saying? I feel like people, because we live in capitalism, they're
No, but
more
that's what I'm
so going to
saying.
be like
I'm saying that
individualistic.
that's the that is the indoctrination
Yeah, of
phase.
course, of
That's
course.
where it starts, even beyond the household. Because with the household, you can say, well, the nuclear family is some type of community. But as far as relating with mass groups of people, it's very me focused, and it's in and that's how we're institutionalized. K through 12, and you get in the job, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I would even argue that the nuclear family isn't based on community. I believe it's based on individualistic goals.
I think it's one of them things where
Because even if you think about this, the nuclear family does not include your external family. It literally includes you, your wife, your son, your daughter, your dog. You know what I'm saying? Like that's an individual goal of them people. It's an individual goal in order to become a nuclear family for the man. It's an individual goal for the woman to be part of the nuclear family. Those aren't you don't necessarily create a community just because there's 5 people in a household.
right, but it could be a community. There's different times. It could be a community. If that's the way that the people in the house work, but we know that that's not the way that they work. We know that things are most of the time the load of majority of the work is put on the woman, and she acts as a servant
Right.
and a baby maker for the man. So I mean, there's I don't know. It just is in every
It's getting
aspect
late.
of our life. Every aspect of our life is based around that. But what I'm saying is, don't play into it. Stop playing into it. Just say your piece. Say why this is bad. Fuck the people. Fuck everybody else and they fee-fees and what they think about it. State the facts. Let's go from there. If you for it, you for it. If you ain't, you ain't. Next. Like I feel like there is so much building that could be done with the people that are being oppressed in themselves without having to reach out to other people to get them to understand.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
not like every single woman, cis and trans, is together and united, and now it's like,
Anyway,
okay,
yep.
we got everybody. Now let's go get the man.
Yeah.
Y'all ain't even did that. We ain't even did that yet. Just like everybody trying to go to the Nazis and the this and they going to the Hebrew Israelites and everybody, y'all ain't even got the people that's for it here
Right.
right now. Y'all ain't even did that first,
Worried about
and
everybody
you worry
else.
about everybody else
Yep.
wasting time planning today rhetoric and all that other shit. But yeah, it's
We'll say it again. Cook shit. We're gonna be deplatformed by YouTube. They're gonna take our video down.
if they ain't did it now, you know that they ain't doing it. But yeah, God, what do y'all think about all this? What do you think? It's just ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous. It's something else. One more thing about this small town, because I'm tickled by it. Small towns. Let's go to Canton, Mississippi. Let's go to Greenwood, Mississippi, where it's like 90% black. Let's go to these small towns. How come small town is the face of white people when we know that majority of black people live in the South? Majority of us live in that what they call it? It's a black soil district. It's something. The black belt. It has
Yes,
something
the
to do.
black
Yeah,
belt.
the black belt. That's where majority of us are still, because that's where we were when we got set free. We set up shop there and we've been living here ever since. But somehow the white people are the face of the small town. Now when we make the black people the face of the small
And the
town,
South too.
and
I
the
feel
South,
like
yeah,
that it doesn't make any sense because majority of the South is black people.
per capita,
Yeah.
we'll say majority of the black people in America are in the South.
There you go.
But it's just interesting how they have become the face. But I don't know, guys. I don't know. Like you said, it is late. But y'all let us know what you think about all these different things that's going on. Um, stuff is just getting ridiculous. I try to stay off Twitter, but sometimes
We just can't. That's the thing. We can't be on Twitter no more. If you if you guys see us on Twitter, it's gonna be rare because we just I feel like a lot of people on Twitter do less organizing and more arguing with each other. And, like, that's just not productive.
Or not even that. I feel
I
like
don't think that that's productive at all for you to just sit up here and just argue all day on Twitter about, well, let's do this, or, well, let's do that, or this is my theory, or that's my theory. Like, if you're using it as, like, a blog, if you're using it as, like, something for you to just talk your heart out to or whatever, cool. But going on there and actively trying to have conversations with people realistically is impossible.
oh yeah, I mean that's yeah. And I think it's really become, especially like with Elon Musk becoming a hold of it and everybody making money and stuff. Nobody is really in quote unquote good faith anymore. A lot of stuff is just, it's half-ass shit. People really don't want to change. People really don't want to know nothing, and so it just becomes a who can come up with the greatest comebacks, who can come up with the greatest zingers. And I've been guilty of this stuff as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, of
Because
course.
sometimes it's good to just roast people. Sometimes that alone is a stress reliever, just cussing somebody out. And it's so much better when you don't even you take a break from it, because it's just a lot of unserious people. I think that's really what it is. So many people are unserious that when you serious, you just start getting your blood pressure up for no reason.
For no reason, and you notice that too. Like you said, your mental health. Like, whenever I get on Twitter, I feel more tense. I feel more upset.
You really do.
I feel more angry and pissed off. But then the moment, like, I'm not on Twitter as much, and instead, like, maybe I'm on Tumblr, or maybe I'm just, like, not on social media, I'm doing schoolwork, I feel way better. I feel way better.
So yeah, I would encourage, every once in a while, a little periodical, a little, maybe even take a little day. It's like, today I ain't gonna get on the thing and watch.
Maybe we get old. Just think we get old.
I mean, it's still, I'm 30 now. KT about to be 30. It would make sense.
That would make sense.
Anyways,
we done said anyways.
Hit us up at Bill Nye PWR if you have anything you'd like to add, anything you'd like to tell us. Yeah, we miss you guys. We're gonna try to get back into it as much as we can, as much as possible as we can. But we love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. As always, this has been Gabby
and KT.
This has been Building Our Power.